we're all human. We all have a beating heart. We all have, that need to belong, whether you're, whatever your culture is, what your religion is, the color of your skin, your gender identity, we are all the same inside.
You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Boxx. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now, without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Boxx.
Welcome back, No Labels, No Limits podcast listeners. We are here to look at the intersection of where life challenges meet our personal triumphs. And we do that through conversations with pioneers like today's guest. So you're going to have a lot of fun. We've been chatting ahead of time, already veered off on the purpose of the conversation. But I want to just give you a quick intro, and that is that we are being joined by Layne The Auctionista. Now, Layne is a non-binary entrepreneur who has not only redefined the role of an auctioneer, but has also become a prominent keynote speaker and an advocate for inclusivity. And Layne has raised over $50 million for charity and brings a wealth of information in overcoming adversity, embracing change, and inspiring others to live authentically. So the pieces of adversity, authentically, making change, all of that are all within Layne's wheelhouse. So with that, let's formally welcome Layne to the podcast. Hi, Layne.
Hey, Sarah, how's it going? Glad to be here. Let's get talking, shall we?
Let's start with you talking. And, could you just share a little bit about how you came to be where you are? Like, what is your story of going from a financial advisor to becoming the auctionista?
Well, it's pretty simple. Many people say that they fall into their careers. Well, I think I fell into my career as an auctioneer because somebody said I couldn't do it. It's kind of an interesting backstory. I was about 46, 47 years old when I went to my very first charity auction gala. I had never been to one of those before in my entire life. It was not in my scope. It was not in something that we did. I'm a child of immigrants, first generation Canadian. So I don't know. We were in our culture, and even as an adult, I didn't go to these charity galas, but we were invited by a friend who was an executive director of a women's shelter, my wife and I said, "Oh, that's awesome. I've never been to one of these. What happens?" I didn't know I had to bring a checkbook. I didn't know I had to bring my credit card. I didn't know anything about it. So when we walked in, I saw the room. The room. It's got the tables around the edge of the room with all the tchotchkes. It's got booze baskets, ugly Afghans, wine baskets, bicycles, all the things with all the papers. And I thought, okay, cool. I guess we can win some things. Sat down and had our chicken dinner. And then he appeared, the auctioneer. And he, worked his way up to the podium. He had a 10-gallon hat on. And he then proceeded to auction off about 100 items in 2 hours for this beautiful charity. And he did it with such a jarring it was upsetting, Sarah. I was jarred. I was taken aback. I wanted to run out the door. He was pushy. He was in my face. He was in everybody's face. And I thought to myself, what is happening here? Is this the best that the charity can get to? They're supposed to be inspiring giving and motivating people to empty out their pockets. Meanwhile, this guy, it felt like he was chasing me out the door. I mean, I didn't know anything about auctioneering back then. I just knew how I felt, and I didn't feel good. And so I didn't know the guy was a livestock auctioneer. I know nothing about that. I know that now. But I turned to my wife and I said, "Honey, I could do that." And she said, "Layne, come on, you're a financial advisor. You don't even know what that is." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'm going to find out." So I got up off of the chair, left the table, and I walked to the back of the room, and I found this guy. And I said to him, how do I learn to do what you just did? Like, what is that? And he looked me up and down. This is a true story. People don't even believe it. But he looked me up and down, and he said, "Hey, little missy, this is a generational career." And he walked away. And all I heard was, "You're not welcome. This is a closed boys club. You can't do this." And it's not happening. But in that very moment, I don't even know what happened. There was this fire that got lit in my belly. And I thought to myself, no. Nobody puts Layne in the corner. And
Well, how dismissive, little missy.
yeah, and well, there's a little he, you know what? He could have used a little DEI training himself, bruv, but he didn't know that. But I became obsessed with it. I started figuring out, what is an auctioneer? What is this thing that I just witnessed? And how does this all work? And that's how it all started.
But you do it a little different, because you said he was in your face. He made people feel kind of icky and jarred. So, but you have a different feel for that. You have a whole different way of doing that, right?
Well, yeah. And you know what? He should, we have to remember there's different strains of auctioneering, right? He's a livestock auctioneer. His sole purpose is to move as many pigs and cows through that livestock arena as possible. He doesn't have to inspire anybody. He's not talking to donors. He's selling, and he's wildly selling. But when it comes to charity fundraising, it's about inspiring people. It's about connecting them to the cause, having them really lean into that mission and say, you know what, I am planting my flag, and you know what, I'm going to donate tonight because this charity helps marginalized, vulnerable folks reach their full potential and thrive. This is about humanity. Philanthropy is about humanity and a love of humanity and helping others reach their full potential and do better in life and have better in life. So it's a different approach, when it comes to donor mindset, right? We want to inspire people and welcome them into the cause and talk about the impact, so that when people invest and people give and people bid on items, they know that their dollars are doing good.
So I do want to move on to your other work that you do, but I would like to dig into this a little more if we can, because I know with the nonprofits I work with, have served on boards of, the common thing is, where are we going to go for money? How do we stay connected to people? And I just had a conversation with an executive director. I need to talk to my partner. Basically, the paraphrase is, I need to talk to the partners in my community who have money so I can, paraphrase, get money from them. And so I said, well, if I may be honest with you, that's not an inspiring invitation, because I hear nothing about what value do I bring to this, right? So we talked about it. It was a really great conversation. But I think that often with nonprofits and donors and philanthropies, there is sometimes a gap in between. Like, I want this, I need this, and you have this resource. But you're talking about communication and relationship and staying connected.
Right. And, my work is in the event space, right? I am not behind a desk in a charity office.
No, but you see it from the outside.
But right, I do see it from the outside. And I also, I left the financial advising business and I became a fundraiser in the charitable sector. So really, the point of view that I bring is very interesting, because I have frontline fundraising experience as a director of development, and I am the auctionista. So I understand about stewardship. I understand about donor psychology. I understand about impact and reporting and, all of those things. And my job in live fundraising is to be that charity's ambassador, to be an extension of their brand, and really, use the skills that I have in engaging people, inspiring people, also knowing how to sell and how to, move people to action. I combine all that, and it works. It's 50 million into working, so I know I'm doing something right. And it's been an interesting career, and along the way, I think the other big piece of it is like, when I started 15 years ago in Canada, it was very stereotypically a male-dominated industry, a white, cis, male-dominated industry.
Has
And
it
I
changed?
thought, well, pardon me?
Has there been much change in regards to that much over the last 15 years?
Well, I can tell you we have female auctioneers now, and I'm sure we have, queer auctioneers out here. We know we have me, non-binary auctioneers. But yes, I mean, there definitely has been a shift. But when I started out, I was breaking the stereotype and blazing a trail as this non-binary person doing this work. And it was rewarding. It was difficult. There were a lot of very difficult days because discrimination, as much as I did a great job and connected with human beings, the discrimination is real, right? And people can be cruel.
So I don't want to make this sound so simple, like, how did you fix that? But how do you, or did you, or do you continue to navigate that kind of environment, Layne, while keeping your own life force and energy and all the positivity you bring, keeping that whole without getting depleted from the other?
Yeah. So as I said, I mean, I'm a mature person. I'm 62 years old, and I've had a life of living and a life of experience. And like every human being on this planet, I've had highs and very deep lows. And my mindset is that I know that there will be continued lows and continued highs, but I look at the lows and the deep valleys as opportunities to strengthen myself, build confidence, and also, learn from that. So I love who I am. I'm very much at peace. I feel that I have arrived at a place in my life where I am unapologetically Layne, who I was meant to be in my entire life, authentic. So I know that I am moving through this landscape of life being exactly who I am and feeling very good about that. So that's a big piece of it. I don't have feelings of wavering and confusion, maybe like I did maybe 40 years ago. So I think that's one piece of it. I also surround myself with very positive individuals, and I know I have a lot of allies out there that support me, that do the things that allies are supposed to do, not just sit passively back in the background, but actively speak out to injustices, and lift others up so that they can reach their full potential. So I've done a major closet cleaning throughout my career, not just with friends, not just with family members, but clients too, that I may not feel safe, like I'm in safe space, and that maybe don't respect who I am as a human being and embrace that. I've rid myself of those negatives. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And when I do have situations where I am tested with discrimination, I will either take that moment to educate that individual in that moment if it's appropriate, or I will come back to that and have that discussion. So I think there's a lot of tactics that I've got in place to protect my soul, to protect my heart. And so I think that has been very, very helpful.
So you mentioned, you said, after 40 years, I'm thinking, okay, so I still have a few years on you,
Okay.
a little
Cool.
more than a decade than you. So,
Oh, you look, well, I got to tell you, I would have never nailed that. You're looking pretty good. And I don't think you have a beauty filter on this Zoom thing
no,
either.
routine is very minimal because I get bored easily. So it's like, oh, little this, little that, we're done. I did brush my hair though. That was my concession to you. So, and no baseball cap at the moment. However, what I was going to say is, so I want you to think back to the Layne of pre all of this, right? Because there's a
Mm,
Layne out there.
mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about, okay, what would have helped you? What would have helped you if someone would have just come alongside you as Layne at 22, and said, hey, here's what's coming ahead. Keep your head on your shoulders and remember these couple of things here.
Well, things are very different. And at 20, we think we know it all. We think we have all the answers. We think we're on the right track. And, I'm going to say our generation, when I was growing up, Sarah, there was no, queer visibility. There was nobody on Sesame Street is even after me, Bonanza, Hazel, that show, Leave It to Beaver. Yes, I remember all those shows, but even the cartoons that I watched, there was no representation of anybody that I felt like that represented me inside. And, we didn't discuss those things. They weren't discussed. They were never discussed. And when they were discussed, there was a lot of homophobia and anti-gay conversation out there in our societies. So I think we've progressed. Definitely, we've progressed. We are taking many steps back right now, which is not okay. But the thing is that when you're a youth, you are looking to find a place where you're not alone. You can feel very, very alone, Sarah, on an island, and that could be if you're gay. It could be maybe if you have a medical condition. And so many kids feel like outsiders and that they're living on the periphery and they're not included and they don't belong. But it's so important to find your people, to find, and people find that in charities. I mean, it's no different than, if you have a family member with Alzheimer's disease, you feel alone as the caretaker. You don't know where to turn. So you go to the Alzheimer's Society and say, I need help. I need support. Well, that's the same thing for to us LGBTQI folks. When you're a youth, it's like you might feel very much alone until you find your squad of people, right? So it was for me at the time when I was growing up, it was very difficult. There was a lot of confusion. There was nowhere to turn. There was no representation. So it's very hard for me to say, hey, what would you have needed somebody to say? I would have loved somebody to say, hey, are you gay? Because I am too. I wish somebody had said that.
Yeah. Well, being invisible is painful.
And not belonging is even more painful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think oftentimes people say, if they say, I hate you, I'm thinking, well, at least they're clear. When they're indifferent, right, or you're, excluded, that's worse than saying, it's like to not belong, to be kicked out, if you will, because that has a whole survival link to it, back decades, centuries, right? You're kicked out of the tribe and you can die.
Humans need to belong to thrive. That's just how we are built. And our very first caregiver, probably our mother, that caregiving experience sets the tone for us as little children of how we're going to be included and felt valued and belong and all of those pieces, right? But we need that. We travel in packs. We need each other. That's what the human spirit and connectivity is all about. And when you don't belong and you feel excluded, that's when people get sick. That's when people start feeling depressed. That's when folks start harming themselves or harming others or turning to, drugs, alcohol, and otherwise to numb that. It's a very big, real thing.
It is. It absolutely is. And I remember. It sounds like one of my grandparents. I remember But I do remember doing volunteer work with teenagers around suicide prevention. And I was probably in my early 40s, late 30s. So a while back. But even then, kids felt such relief when you would go in and say, let's talk about some statistics. So I'm not going to ask any of you to say anything you're not comfortable, but I just want you to acknowledge how many people in the room might feel exactly like you, right? I can't tell you, and I was really scared to have to talk to teenagers. They were a little scary for me because I'm thinking, what if they have a problem? I don't know what to do. And the gal, my boss, she says, you listen, that's all you do. And if it's urgent, we will notify someone to help them. The counselors know we're here. So, but I cannot tell you how many times after a workshop, someone would come and say, I just needed to know that I'm not alone, right?
Right.
And I'm going to do this, right? They had
Right.
it. So it is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when, I don't know, Layne, I think like with COVID too, we all kind of went inside more, and I'm not sure we came outside more again.
Well, yeah, and I do, and COVID was a very interesting thing because the analogy I love to use is like it was like a tornado. One side of the street could have been perfectly fine. Everybody was working and they were either in healthcare or manufacturing, things carried on. And then the other side of the street could have been completely decimated. I know for me in live events, it was done and it was over. But
Instantaneous.
we all had, there was a collective sense of we're all having a lot of mental health challenges collectively. So we actually did come together with that understanding. And I think those conversations about normalizing mental health challenges and getting rid of those stigmas. I think about, Bell Let's Talk Day here in Canada, where, celebrities and high profile individuals are like, hey, I'm suffering. I suffered from depression and I got help and I'm much better now. These conversations kind of opened up. And I know that for myself, as I was invited to keynote speak many, many times virtually at team meetings and conferences and AGMs and all sorts of, um, you know, uh, types of events where people were getting together, and mental health was a huge topic, but we actually started talking about it, and I think that's a good thing. Normalizing, we're all human, we all have stuff. We do.
We do.
We are not those shiny golden people that you see on social media. It actually doesn't exist.
I actually am tired of it. It's like I'm going blah blah blah. I don't believe a word of it, And so maybe I got a little more cynical during COVID, but I think it's helpful because everybody has struggles. Like you were talking about, just like being a caretaker for someone, Layne, and there's the ups and downs of that, and feeling like someone else's life is in your hand. All of those things are really stressful, and without people to help you or guide you. And I recognize that the you of 40 years ago doesn't exist because those times don't exist, but there is someone here who needed to hear what you said today. I know that for a fact, who's going, okay, all right, Layne just gave me the nugget I needed right there.
Good.
Okay, will you talk a little bit about your impact workshop?
Yes. So in the, equity, diversity, and inclusion space, there are, many, many parts of what is equity, diversity and inclusion, right? But the area that we focus on is on gender identity and bringing that information to work teams. It as much as it is about understanding gender identity and third gender and pronouns and understanding the difference between gender expression, what I choose to wear, and how I present myself, and sexual orientation, the fundamental basis of this is around, we need to be kind. We need empathy in this world. We need kindness and empathy, and really cast those differences aside. We're all human. We all have a beating heart. We all have, that need to belong, whether you're, whatever your culture is, what your religion is, the color of your skin, your gender identity, we are all the same inside, and we all want the same thing. We want to be doing our very best. We want to thrive, and we want to feel that we are a part of something, and we give value to our work lives, our communities. So beyond the gender identity, actual education, it's about that. It's about something broader than that. And so I bring my life experiences and anecdotes, and, along with the education, I'm talking about the reality of a 2S LGBTQ2 plus person, what those experiences are, and how we can really get better together, having conversations and including everyone, no matter what they look like, no matter who they are. So this has been a very important part of my life's journey, and in these last few years. I've been Layne The Auctionista a very long time, but I also then started getting another spark in my belly, where I thought, okay, here I am, a couple of years ago, 60 years old. I know that I have the ability to move people to action. I know I've done that for 15 years as the auctionista in the charity world. But, I thought I want to do more. And so taking on this work has been really empowering for me, and it's important to me. And taking my voice beyond the ballroom, I guess, is kind of what I call it.
That's a
And doing
great
something
title.
around, being an advocate for social justice.
Is there a lot of space for you to be doing that in your geographic area, or do you have to travel to reach your audiences?
No, I live right in the Toronto area, and this is, Ontario is the breadbasket, really, of Canada for, head offices and corporations and charities. So there is a lot of opportunity, but I don't limit it to that. I will travel across the country, and I do that in my charitable work too. As the auctionista, I work from Vancouver to Halifax and everything in between. So, I work across the country doing this work.
Okay, so you've been in this new passion, I'm going to say, that's really driving you with your impact workshops, your DEI. And I like that you have the B on there for belonging, right? Because I think that even puts a bow on it for me. It's kind of like, okay, it's all good to have all this knowledge, but it is leading somewhere. It's leading somewhere. It's not just chatter, right? It's not just because it's a good thing to do it, because it creates belonging, right, and respect and all the other things. So where do you hope you will see your biggest changes in the next 3 to 4 years from all of your passion and your impact work that you're doing?
Well, I think for me, the long-term vision is to really keep the activists in me alive. We do not want our voices being drowned out by what is happening in this world. Because that's an easy thing to just step back and say, okay, they don't want us, we don't want to talk about it. No. I think for me, the biggest goal is that corporations, work teams will continue to find importance and value in doing this kind of training. Because from the corporate side of things, when people feel like they belong and they're included, they're part of the team, productivity skyrockets. Absenteeism drops. Creativity abounds. And I mean, that's the bottom line. So for me, it's, corporations continuing to invest in this kind of training and seeing that happen. That's my long-term goal. I will not be silenced.
Well, I wouldn't imagine you would be. A little missy.
A little messy, yeah, exactly. Nobody puts baby Layne in the corner.
So I ask you that because I think that my hope is that the conversation isn't about silencing people, but it's like when I know someone who, the minute the conversation started, that said, we're going to do this. And I'm thinking, okay, are you doing that for show? Or are you doing that for go? Like, are you in the corporate world? Are you doing this just so you can say, yeah, we did that, right? So we're cool. Or are you doing that because you get why that's important? And and you would do it whether someone told you to do it or not, and
Mhm.
so my Pollyanna side goes, hopefully we don't have to like fight all the time, that it'll be like you and I were talking before we started recording, the younger generations get it faster.
Mhm.
So
It's
maybe
true.
they'll just start leading the corporation.
Eventually they will, Sarah. You and I, our generation, we're getting nearer and closer to retirement. But we are decision makers, we
Yeah.
are leaders, we are CEOs. Those positions are held by many folks in our generation.
Yeah.
And it starts from the top down. Leadership and strategic vision starts from the top down.
I do not
Um,
disagree.
Right, right. Many of the corporations that I'm working with have, 5-year strategic EDI plans, and this falls into place with their long-term strategic goals around equity,
So
diversity.
you are the answer to their question.
I am. I am part of their answer. I am part of that wheel because it takes a village, it takes a team, right? So my slice of the pie is gender identity, whereas another trainer's could be around, culture, religion, but that's my area of speciality, is what I call it.
Speciality.
Speciality.
I like that. Okay, Layne, I'm going to leave you. Well, two things. First, where's the best place for people to connect with you? Because I can imagine people hearing this going, first of all, I got to find out more about what she's doing and where she's doing it.
Yep.
So where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Well, there's two places. Instagram is a very great place to connect with me. There's lots of content on there, and you can DM me. And my Instagram handle is The Auctionista, AUCTIONISTA, the word auction with Ista on the end of it. And if you want to check out my website, you can see all the keynote topics that I cover off, and that is auctionista.ca. Pretty simple.
Pretty simple. Well, unless you're used to doing .com. So
yeah, .ca for us Canadians, yes.
We love our Canadian friends.
I know you do. I know you do. Sorry about that.
Hey, you know what? Okay, here's what I know from decades. It's like pendulum swing. Don't think that the first cadence of the swing is the full arc, right? And so I think about that with everything. So I'm going, people when they're crying about stuff, I'm going, okay, we'll never get through this. Something, okay, centuries have gotten through shit before.
Yep, we will get through it, and we will come out okay. We
hopefully better than okay.
Yeah, hopefully okay. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, my goal in life right now is don't get your knickers in a twist before you have to. Right?
There you go. Good advice.
Anyway, because I can get wired up about stuff. And my husband knows. Are you off on a tangent? Perhaps. So, but I do want to leave you with the last words of thought, advice, comment for our listeners here today.
My words are always the same. Be gentle, be kind, and be good to each other. We're all in this together, and we all just want to do our very best and live our best lives.
So there you have it, podcast listeners. We'll have all the information in the show notes. Check Layne out. I kind of wished you lived closer. You'd be really fun to hang with. So anyway, I'll get back on track here. And I want to thank you for being a superb guest, Layne.
Thanks for having me.
All the best to you.
Thank you, Sarah. Have a great day.
Bye.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic business coach, Sarah Boxx. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahboxx.com/no labels, no limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. Please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Till next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.